Well, good morning. I'm back. I'm trying to stay on top of this. And as I'm marinating everything, I'm figuring go ahead and speak it, to go ahead and get it out. Because sometimes if I marinate too long, I'll forget that thought process because it's like I grasp it and then I'm like, oh, okay, it may not be a big aha learning lesson or grip from it, whatever it is that you may call it. But yeah, so the last few sessions, I was able to chat with my mom, and she didn't even see the sessions first. Like, we just started chatting. So, when I start this healing process, I start speaking my truth to the people that are around me, and I'll let them know, like, I had a healing session today. And then, like I was sharing with my mom that I was like, yeah, I had a healing session, and I'm just proud of myself of where I've come, and so forth. And so her and I were chatting because I shared a little bit of the video or session. And I'm glad I did because it gave us an opportunity to kind of talk together about it. And it was a good talk. I enjoyed it. It was because that doesn't happen often when it comes to something that needs to be talked about. Um, just because of the way our upbringings have all been, like it just continues on. Um, it's just mainly don't speak about it, push it underneath the rug type thing. And so mom and I were talking, and she was like, there was only like really 2 times that we ever discussed the situation of me being molested. Um, And so I learned something because remember in my last session, I was saying that we didn't discuss it much, which I mean, I remember that. I remember it was mentioned, like she was aware of it, but we didn't discuss, like, however, she did help bring back a memory that made me feel, I don't want to say better, but made me go, I I obviously felt like I had the answer still at that time, at that age. So what happened is the reason why I didn't press charges. I told my mom, I believe, I don't know how the conversation went, but she had said that uh, when it was brought up, I said that I wanted to make it very known to his daughter's mother, because he had 2 daughters, that I knew he was doing it to because it was happening in the same room that I was in next to me. So I knew for 100% fact. And so around, I want to say, I would bet that age frame, we did decide that it was 10 to 11, 12. He was in our life for 3 years. So, um, like I said, I don't necessarily feel that it happened like that. I mean, it could have, to but I don't want to say I'm ballparking, but what I feel is the grooming process was the beginning of it, and then after the grooming process, so for about 2 years, I would say, like, if that's, I think that's why it was like 10 to 11, 12 kind of age frame. And so at that age, when it was brought out, I had told mom, I said, I want to talk to their mothers, I want to let their mother know. And so apparently we didn't have a phone at that time. And now I remember this. Like, I kind of, it's like I remember that going down. I don't remember like all the discussion and who exactly was all involved. But at that time we didn't have a phone. So we went over to a friend's house of my mom's. And I guess we made the call, and I spoke to the girls' mom. And so at that point, I mean, I don't know exactly what happened, if moving further, if, they continued seeing him, or I don't know. But now knowing that I wanted to tell their mother, I'm kind of like, that's kind of cool. Hang on, Luca wants out real quick. All right, I'm back. She liked my heart that Kaden made. I don't know what year she made it. Well, it was in the past 3 years because my heart surgery, but that's an art piece that she made. Those are like just torn up art paperwork or whatever, but love it. So anyways, squirrel moment for a second. So yeah, I got to tell the mom, and I don't guess, like, I remember now after my mom sharing this scenario with me, I was like, yeah, okay, yep. But so then after I got off the phone, I guess my mom's friend was like, so what are you going to do about it? Like, what are you guys going to do? Like, what are you going to do? And apparently I said, not apparently, I mean, I am saying, like, I remember saying that I didn't want to press charges. Want to know why I didn't want to press charges? I didn't want to tell my dad. I didn't want my dad to know. I was so worried about what my dad was going to do or think. Not to me, but just in general, the overall. Like remember, like, now feeling it, how scared or worried I was for him, because I always thought that I was daddy's little girl. And he made it known that if something was to be happening to daddy's little girl, that he would lose it. And then not only that, I didn't want him to see me that. I didn't want him to see me like that. I didn't want him to... He was the only one that I felt safe and comfortable with. Besides my brother, too. But I didn't want him to know. Kind of hurts. I mean, it does hurt, because I'm sitting here thinking, I'm angry at myself. I mean, I know I'm so compassionate and I have a heart that I worry for others, but I look at it and I'm like, I did all that to protect him. To protect him from having those thoughts of his daughter, to think that his daughter is not pure, to think that his daughter's been dirty. I know that's not what, I'm not saying he would have said that, but that's how my thought process was. That's what I felt inside. So that's why I didn't want to tell him. That's why I didn't want to press charges. I didn't want to press charges on a guy that has hurt multiple people because of the one guy in my life that meant everything to me, that I felt the safest around. Isn't that crazy how we do things like that? I think so. Because I will say at that time, I was frustrated with my mom. We discussed about it as well, that she she was in her process of dealing with, like, after she kicked him out, and she was going to um AA or some sort of meeting class to help her better understand the sickness that she got caught up with my abuser. Well, I should say our abuser, because he abused her mentally, emotionally, just as well. So, but so she was in these classes, and she had told me, which I vaguely remember, like, the scenario, how it played out, because she told me, like, how it played out. But she wrote a letter, and to both my brother and I, and it was basically owning her, like, apologizing and owning her position in her caught up in illness and how it exposed to us. I don't know exact verbiage. She said she wished she still had the letter. And I guess I read it, and I just came back out to tell her that pretty much to dismiss her letter, it sounds like. When the first time I tried telling her about the scenario of being molested, she did not give the response that I needed and wanted. She was very caught up and traumatized and whatnot herself. So now at this age, I see that. Like, I understand that now. But I'm working through the process of being that young girl right now. And that young girl didn't have that trust and that comfort within my mom, because she was caught up. And so when I had originally first tried to tell her, she didn't want to hear it. It, like, if that made sense, because it was kind of like what I had basically said is, if I tell you, you wouldn't believe me. You wouldn't believe me. So I didn't have that compassion for her, in the sense of, I just didn't, like I said, she didn't provide what I needed at that time and wanted, because she herself was traumatized. And so when she was trying to heal and better herself, for herself and for us kids, I shut her down. That's where I was at. I was hurt. I wouldn't want to say it, I didn't, like, growing up, I didn't blame it on her. I wasn't mad at her. If anything, I was more sad and hurt, like, in the sense that, because it was like I knew, or I seen her trauma, but I didn't understand it. Like, I don't know how to explain that. So when I guess I shut her down, and then after that, we've never talked about it, and it's never been spoke about until recently. And I hope she don't mind, but she had shared with me that it was always uncomfortable for her to speak about it, or mention, if something similar was being brought up around it, it would make her feel like clam up, like close, like, oh, let's not talk about, let's just put that back underneath the rug. Let's not, because that's something too that, this is kind of going on a pattern here, because if you go back to the first experience, the first abuser that abused both my brother and I, she had said that when he had shared with, we didn't talk about it. She didn't ask me, you know what I mean? So that was shoving it underneath the rug. And now, mind you, this is only because this is the way she was taught. So she was not in the wrong. I'm not saying she's in the wrong. It's just how she was taught. That's the hereditary, that was my grandparents. That's how they, put it underneath the rug. It's I know a lot of families do that, but man, when those families do that, the trauma and the pain that each individual is going through, it's just mind-blowing. Why um, each family, like why we all can't just have this, what? What? It all makes sense now. Like, I get it now. I remember growing up and I hear people say, oh, the family trauma, blah, blah, blah. Like, but it never really resonates or just makes sense until it's like, psh, right in your face. And you're like, oh, wow. Okay, well, I might have a chance to change this. My children are still young enough that I still have a chance to fix this, that to own my shit, to correct it, to live my higher self, live my higher power, to live happy, to, you know what I mean, let go and to heal that inner child, to go back to that person, not, you know what I mean, not go back, but yeah, but to go back to that child and tell her you are loved, you are wanted, you are special, you know what I mean? Like, tell my younger self what I'm worth, because I didn't lack the the confidence, because my parents were very good about always uh making me strong, if that made sense. Like, that is one thing that I will say. I don't want to say it's a uh I mean, some could say, well, it could be not a flaw. I'm trying to think of a word. I can't think of it, but kind of in that general, but a setback, like the strength that I have of pack up, move on. Like, yep, we went through that shit, we'll continue moving on type thing. Um, they taught me that. They taught us to be strong and to be confident and to hold our head high. And so they taught me that. And so it's not like I didn't feel worthless in that sense. I felt a young child should not go through any sexual experiences at a very young age. No, no. It's very devastating. It's very traumatizing. And it's just not okay. And being my age and now understanding and having my spiritual awakening, God, I hate to say it, but I'm glad it happened to me. Because I don't want it to happen to my children. And so I made it very clear from the get-go when they were little babies. Like, they couldn't talk, and I would say, when I would wipe them or anything like that, I would say, only mommy and daddy would wipe you. Or if I had to bathe and clean and whatnot, I'd be like, only mommy and daddy are to wash you, like, and then when they got better, this is your private. No one's to touch you. No one's to, rub you. No one's to do this. Like, I talked to them because it wasn't talked about at that time frame. And when that stuff was happening to me, it was, like I said, it's devastating. And so now I look back at it and it's like, now it makes sense. Like, I was living with my mom and our abuser who moved in with us, like, right away, and master manipulator, like, I was, all right, hang on, someone's walking by. Shh, I'm recording.
Oh, sorry.
It's okay, I'm just waiting for you to go by. Where was I at? I'm trying to, give me a few seconds here. Let me think about that squirrel. That's the only thing about doing therapy is it's not that I'm uncomfortable speaking about it, but it's just, it loses my train of thought process. Um, they have access, or they will have access, my oldest does, to these, because the whole purpose of this is for my healing and my therapy, but it's also to maybe help them understand better when they're ready to watch these, to say, this is why my mom was the way she was, so they can have a better understanding. But going back to living with my mom, and I guess you could say that because I didn't live with my dad, I had more frustration within my mom because it was like I wasn't blaming her. You know what I mean? Like I wasn't, but it was like I was also feeling um what was I? A lack of support. And so um growing up I wasn't a mommy's girl. Like I was not. I mean, I love my mom to death. I do. But I just wasn't a mommy's girl. I was a daddy's girl. And I think a lot of that had to do obviously with I mean, all the physical abuse that I went through with Mel's. And he was my safe haven. So let's see, what else was I don't know. I got sidetracked and scrolled, but I wanted to jump on and talk about that because I had that conversation with my mom and it was brought back up that, that we did speak about it and the reason why I didn't want to press charges. And I was like, oh, wow. Like, I remember now. Like, and so that's what I mean is like going through this more and more starts opening up because I forget the small details. And it's not that I wanted to, but after so many surgeries, but definitely after my open heart surgery, I have just, my memory and my thought process sometimes is difficult. So, um, but yeah, I am moving forward. I do have a couple more things I wanted to start. Like it's there. So I'm going to start bringing it out, and I will mention now. So, and I'm also, matter of fact, I'm going to write it down right now so I don't forget about it. And I think I've already did. I just haven't discussed or brought it up, or if I did, I don't remember that I have. But what I want to mention next was, or not next, but like that's kind of brewing next to all of this is expectations that I had set within both of my parents and in life in general that led me to make dumb, okay, I shouldn't say dumb, but made where I've made some decisions that necessarily should have been thought about a little bit longer. For example, my marriage. The expectation that was put on me that I felt, okay, so really this expectation was put on me by me, but I felt that it was like the expectation of just society and the world and my parents, and this is what to be expected. This is what it's supposed, you know what I mean? But I was pregnant. I had my oldest before I got married. She was 4 years old when we got married. So we did everything backwards. We had the child, we lived together first and then had the child and then got married and then got divorced. We did it backwards, but the way it sounds things, I've done everything backwards. Just, you know. So the expectations of, because I had a child that when I was being brought up and raised, it was that you were to get married. You have children, or you're to get married and then have children. So it was just like embedded in my head that that's what had to happen. Like I had to marry him. I had to marry him. And I did, and I don't regret it at all. But I will tell you this, and this is the part that I'm going to start working through as well. But again, it kind of, like I said, it boils down to the reality of expectations. And I had the expectation within myself that I better marry him. And now, mind you, when I first met him, my first night, now I don't say mind you, but I will share with you guys. My first night meeting him, I knew I was going to marry him. I mean, I knew it. Like, I knew we were going to get married, and it was on a beach. And actually, it was a vision that I saw the first night that him and I met. And we did. We ended up getting married next to a beach, not on the beach, but it was right at a golf resort right next to the beach. But it was just so. Anyways, the years that we were, we went through dating and living together, doing everything, like we were together. But then when it came down to, we got pregnant, and that was an issue in itself. Like it, I can share that story another time, but basically what I'm boiling down to, well, I'll share it real quick. So we got pregnant, and we were not married. And now my family didn't seem, it was big congratulations. It was, they didn't express their opinion on how it should have been done. But his side did express it, and they were not okay with it because we were, they're just how they were raised, and how what they believed in was very old fashioned. And, the reason why I'll never forget the scenario is because it's like, now I know, I'm like, okay, she's just a hurt and traumatized person. Like, going back through everything, I now understand why people act the way they act. And it's like, I just have more compassion for that, instead of just rolling my eyes and being like, whatever, you're an asshole, or you're a cunt, or you're this or that. Like, that's how I would used to, feel about people when they would do things. So for an example, we picked them up from an airport. They were coming back from a vacation, and my husband, well, we weren't married at that time, so my boyfriend at the time was driving, and his father was in front of me, and then his mother was next to me, and I'm not 100% sure who was over. It might have been his sister, I'm not sure, but anyways, so he had came out, and he had said that we were expecting. And oh my God, you can hear a pin drop in that car, in the Jeep. It was just like, and then I had this on my lap, and she turned and she looked at me and she goes, well, I guess congratulations is in order, but I don't approve. That was very awkward. I don't remember what I said. I didn't tell her off. I can't tell one to say how they should and should not feel. But I already knew from that point what type of pregnancy I was going to have around them, what type of relationship I was going to have. I already knew what she set that stance. She just went boom. And so I was like, all right, cool. That's how it is going to be. And let me tell you, it was not comfortable. My pregnancy was not comfortable. She would purposely cook, and I say purposely, and she may, if this ever gets back to you, if you may have not purposely cooked it, let it be known that it sure did feel like it, because you would invite us over for dinner, and you had food on the table that every pregnant woman should not be eating. Talk about the uneasiness, the times that's a whole nother ballpark I went through with my in-laws. So, I mean, I don't want to douse on them, because like I said, that's a part of another roller coaster I'm bringing into my healing process, because that needs to be healed as well. But so anyhow, that just kind of sets the tone right then and there. Like, that's how the start of our relationship had started. It was rough. It was not pleasant. It wasn't, it was very fake, very phony. And so anyways, throughout the years, my love for my ex-husband was growing. Like, I was in love with him. Like, I loved him. I wanted to marry him. And so now this is where it's like, I say this and some people are like, I'm so sorry to hear that. I'm so sorry that you even, like, I'm sorry. That's crappy. But the day that I was walking down the aisle, I knew I was walking into a divorce. I knew it. I knew I was going to get a divorce. I did not see my forever with him. I wanted it. Don't get me wrong. I wanted it. Luca's trying to get in. 1 second. You see, sometimes it is kind of hard to do stuff for myself, just as simple as a little therapy, because you got to take care of a dog. You got, people interrupting. It's no big deal, but it's just that little example. Gosh, what was I saying? Oh, so walking down the aisle, I knew I was walking down into a divorce. I didn't want that, but I knew that's what was going to happen and take place. But I also continued on with it, because some people was like, oh, well, if you knew that, then why did you? Well, again, because the expectations were set that when you have a child, you get married. And so that's exactly where I had set my expectations, was that I had a child with him, that I have to marry him. That way, that she's not a bastard child, basically, because, like, a child born out of wedlock, blase, that's what I'm saying. The society has put that on us. That's bullshit. We are so fucking brainwashed, it's retarded. This is what you should do. When you have a baby, you grow up, go to school at age 5. This is how you should be. After you graduate, you go to college, you get a job, you get married. You know what I'm saying? Like, it has, why? Because society, the world, the universe, not necessarily the universe, but the way we have all been brainwashed, because we were not brought to this world and this life, this human life, to be controlled like that. We weren't, but we are. And so breaking that cycle, I'm trying, because, again, like I said, I walked down that aisle knowing I was going to get a divorce. And I wanted the simple fact that it was like, well, if anything, she could say that, well, my parents are divorced. Because I think about when my parents were divorced and going through it at my age in first grade. I thought about, in her eyes, I'm like, how would it feel if she said that my parents were never married? Weird, right? Weird that I would have thought something like that at that time frame. But that's how I did. I did think about that. But now you ask me, and if you look at me and my other one, I didn't marry him. And that's not even an issue. So it's just crazy how expectations that you set within yourself, like, I have to do this, I have to do that, because this person, this is how I was raised, this is how I was upbrought, this is what was, you know what I'm saying? And I'm not saying that my parents necessarily brainwashed. Like, we all don't try to brainwash each other. Like, it's just like, what I'm being very aware of now is, like, I try for the best since this awakening, that if the girls are, like, frustrated or they're going through what they're going through, I try to and let them be that, just them, and not put what I was taught, or what I was pushed to believe, because that's not fair. It's not right. Yeah, you can help guide in some areas, but I don't want to do that. I mean, I guide, but I don't want to be one to be like, nope, you're in the wrong. You're very, very wrong. It's not like that. No, they may be wrong in my opinion and my thought process, but each person is different. And so that's what I'm trying to do better about and be more aware of. And so that's how all this therapy is like kind of tying into is I look at my past and my childhood and it's like, okay, how is it playing an effect right now to my children? And what am I going to do to fix that, to better that, to change that? Because I don't want them sitting at the age 40 where I'm at. And I don't want to say embarrassed or shamed of my life, but the decisions and stuff that I've made because of the shit. Ugh. Yes, embarrassing, but I own it, so it's not embarrassing, if that makes sense. Like, I fucking did what I did. Excuse my language, by the way. But yeah, more and more will come out. But I think I'm going to go ahead and stop here for now because I do need to see even what time it is. I might have, yeah, no, I do need to get going. So, okay, well, I feel good of discussing this. And, I'll be back for more. Sorry, this one's a little wishy-washy, and I don't know if I'm just sitting here contemplating. I'm like, I don't know. I may not even post this one. I may re-record because the distractions and stuff. That's just my thought process. But anyways, if it gets posted, it gets posted. I love you all, and thank you for being here. And most of all, I love myself.